In this episode of TechSpose, we're going to be taking a look at the Richard Sherman podcast hosted by Richard Sherman. Now, if you're not familiar with who he is a former NFL player. He actually won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and he is now one of the members of the Amazon crew that covers the Thursday night NFL games. So he's very familiar with not only being in front of the camera as an athlete, but now being behind the camera as well on this other side as a content creator. So we're going to be looking at his setup, looking at the audios, looking at the visuals, and kind of the aesthetics. He already has a name for himself, so because of that, he definitely has a good subscriber count here, nearly 200,000 subscribers on YouTube already. And if you don't have that many subscribers, don't worry about it. We're just taking a look and seeing what elements we can pull from his setup that we can use as creators as well. So let's dive in and let's look at first his home office setup here. Now, there's quite a few things I want to pull away from this that you can learn from, especially if you need to pay a little bit more attention to your details if you don't have that name recognition already, where people would just, hey, they don't care, they're just going to listen to you because you have already built a reputation for yourself. If you haven't done that before, let's pay attention to some of these things that we can make some modifications on for our own setups. Let's start on the far right hand side here. Now, what you'll notice here is that we have a window here, and it's actually nighttime in this environment. The reason that I want to point this out is because if we switch over to his other change here in the camera angle, we see that same window, and it is actually in daylight over here. Okay, now why is this so important? Because lighting definitely affects the way the visuals look. If you have light coming in from the back, it will definitely cause a distraction because it can be very, very harsh. And lighting from the back is not what you want. You want to light from the front side, okay? So if you do have windows in your environment, definitely pay attention to that. You may even have to consider covering those up if you're recording in a daytime environment, especially when that light is very harsh. Now, speaking of lights, we can see that overall this entire setting here has this almost amber color on it. Okay, so all of this area has like an amber color. That's probably because he's using the native light bulbs in the room. There's not actually a professional type of lighting where he's actually using a key light or a fill light. So that's what I would definitely recommend for this environment, to get rid of that brownish amber color lighting in this situation. It's definitely room light, a room light bulb, okay? And that can be changed to make things pop a little bit more, especially because he has so many great awards on that back shelf. For those to pop a little bit more, having a true white light, being able to dial in that color temperature is something you can easily do with a nice light. So definitely would recommend adjusting the lights here. So we called out the window, we called out the lighting here. Let's move over to look at the camera itself, some of the aesthetics on the camera. What we're seeing has a nice wide field of view here, so we can obviously, like I mentioned, his background with the awards. So anytime you have awards or things that can kind of let people know your accomplishments are or what your interests are, things that you're proficient in, it gives them a little bit more insight as a viewer about you. And I've personally seen that myself, right? So like over my shoulder here, I have an eagle. I love eagles, not the football team, the Eagles, but eagles. I love that specific species of bird. Now, here we can see that if you didn't know who he was, you would definitely know that he probably was interested in football, right? Or had some type of relationship with football here, okay? We have footballs everywhere, okay? We have the name of his podcast, which is pretty cool right there as well. So it's always on brand visually, which is really nice. Now, one thing we could remove here is we actually could remove this looks like a vacuum cleaner here on the right hand side. We could actually get rid of that to clean up that aesthetics a little bit more. And here on the left hand side, what I want you to notice is this wall space here, because when we go back to the other view, you'll notice that the camera was adjusted to fix that. Okay, now the camera itself Don't know what it is. Haven't been able to see any footage of what is being used, but I would venture to say it's probably a built-in camera on a webcam or an iMac, something like that. The quality could be improved. That's why I can tell that it's not a 4K camera. So it is something that could look at as an improvement if we wanted to kind of really dive into some of those things that we could change in this setup. Now, another thing in this particular view that I do want to call your attention to is over on the far right hand corner here, we can see this boom arm element. So very similar to the setup that I'm using right now, I'm actually using a boom arm to hold my microphone, which you can see down at the bottom of the screen, which is just out of frame. So that microphone we'll actually dive into a little bit more here on another angle from this. Couple other visual things that I really like about this is the fact that we're not using like a base template type of software for the graphics. If you notice around the outside of the presentation here, we have that blue color scheme here going around the outside. We also have the logo here in the top left corner, which is nicely put in, along with the sponsorship ad or sponsorship logos here in the top right corner. When you're using a really decent software, one of the ones I like to use is Ecamm. That's how I'm actually using visuals for what I record most of my content with. It allows you to put in some of those more creative elements, which looks good on screen or on camera, right? That branding can really be done easily with a software like that. Let's take a look at this other angle that we looked at briefly when we were talking about the window and the lighting scenario here. I like this a lot better right here. This camera position works a lot better. He could even crop in just a hair again to get rid of that window so we don't even see the crack of the window, but very minor, right? But it is something that we can pay attention to crop in just a little bit better. That way we don't see that vacuum or potential vacuum in the corner. Now here on the wall here, it does show more of this wall, which could be look blank. But if you wanted to, there, I mean, like any type of award could go here. A tall standing plant could go here as well to give a little bit of greenery here in this setup as well. So we have some options here to really make this whole set pop, right? Again, this is Richard Sherman. Like, people know who he is in the sports world. He doesn't have to do any of this stuff. But if we don't have a name for ourselves and we're looking for those visual aesthetics to make our sets look good, make them look a little bit more lively, pop, or even just have that certain feel, we can add some more things to here. Now the key is to do not overcomplicate your design set. It's just more of filling in those blank spaces in this case. Okay. Again, we can see his boom arm on the far right hand corner down here, so we're still using that boom arm and our microphone there as well. Now at this point in the video, which you will see here coming soon what microphone he is using, but I do want you to notice that he is wearing earbuds here, or earphones that do not appear to be wired. Highly recommend using wired earphones or earbuds so that you can have that true audio without a delay, without drop issues, without the battery going out. Is just something that I've experienced in the past, and I've watched other content creators deal with at some point, is having audio drop out or being delayed, or they lost an earbud and can't find it midstream. So things to avoid if you can there. Let's take a look at the third part of this setup here, and I'll link to these episodes that I'm showing you here in the description, along with an idea list of what I believe that he is using and some of the aesthetic things that go along with his set design as well. Now in this view here, we can definitely see it's a more relaxed environment. This is probably again inside of his house, where he can just simply say, hey, I'm going to create this episode of this podcast and I'm just going to get it out there. Again, he can do that because of who he is and what he's done in the past, because his audience is definitely there for him when he shows up online. Now here we definitely have a better idea of what microphone he's using, and this is the Shure MV6 microphone. So he's using a Shure microphone, which means he's using a quality microphone, because audio is that important. even if the lighting is bad in this environment, even if the camera quality is not the best in this environment, the audio quality is not being sacrificed. So, big proponent of using a good microphone to capture that audio, because if you have bad audio, chances are people won't listen long. If you have bad video and good audio, they'll hang out with you. If you have bad audio and good video, chances are they'll bounce and not follow up with you throughout the entirety of that live stream or that recording. So the Shure microphone, I can tell with the green branding here. I've seen this before, and in this view, looks like he's probably just using his laptop, just has the laptop open and looking directly at it. Now you can't see he's slightly above the camera. Good rule of thumb is to have that camera just slightly above your eye level facing you, so that we're not looking up noses. How many times have you been on a Zoom and you're looking up somebody's nose? You really don't want to do that. So bringing that camera level up just a little bit would definitely make this shot a little bit better, especially for those of us that are creating content and we're trying to bring the best visual elements that we can, because we might not have the largest following. So these little things do matter for us. But this is Richard Sherman's podcast. Definitely a fan of the NFL and athletes like him that put it all out there on the field every single day. But this has been the Texposing of the Richard Sherman podcast. Really cool to see athletes getting into content creation. Let me know in the comments section who should be Texposed next.